Okay. You can see the slides?
Yeah.
Okay, we're all right. We're good to go. All right. So, thanks for being patient, guys. And sorry for all of that. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to be sharing briefly the journey of starting, growing, building the Change School, which is a company I co-founded in 2014, at the end of 2014, officially 2015. And the Change School is a school for helping individuals, organizations, and communities to learn how to define and align their core values, so the things that are most important to them, be it as individuals or as a business, and the choices that they make. So it may be business decisions, it may be career decisions. In the last 2 years, that's been much more our focus around helping people to make big career shifts, but it can also be in your personal life. So, that's my co-founder, Grace. Her and I are what we call puberty friends because we knew each other since we were 13. We went to school together. We were on similar paths for a really long time. We both thought we were going to be diplomats because both our parents were diplomats, and that seemed like a very noble kind of profession. We were both interested in international relations, rah, rah, rah. Fast forward to however many years it was, we were both about 27, and we reconnected. We went to school together in Singapore. We reconnected in New York and found that neither one of us were on the path to becoming diplomats. We both ended up in marketing. And a little internal joke that we have is that oftentimes marketers are the guys who didn't really know what they wanted to do before. And so that's how we kind of reconnected with each other. And just before starting the Change School, what happened is we both left New York, moved back to Singapore, and we found ourselves stuck. I had been in corporate PR for a couple years, hated it, was totally burnt out, and I am one of those chronic burner-outers, so I know all about the patterns, but I'm working on it. And Grace was running her own business, but her father passed away. So both of us were at this really strange space of not really knowing what we wanted to do next. What made sense? Where do we fit in this world? How do we navigate the fact that we've moved from New York back to Singapore, so a totally different cultural environment? How do you apply your skills? How do you follow a conventional career path if you weren't necessarily on that path? So, something we always say is that around that time in 2015, if you found yourself at a crossroads, be it in your personal or professional life, there didn't seem to be an obvious space or place to go to try and figure out how to move forward. The only two options we saw at the time was either get an MBA, which seemed to be what a lot of confused people were doing, or go on a yoga retreat, which is what a lot of other people seem to be doing. And the hope is that either way, whichever approach you go, you figure out something, get some clarity, and come back to reality and move forward. Now, if any of you have done either thing, I've done both. So just to be clear, I'm not saying that an MBA or a yoga retreat is a bad thing, but if you've been on either one, you would probably know that it can be challenging because while you're in it, a lot of things make sense, whether it's theory, textbooks, case studies, or having that moment of clarity while you're meditating and sitting in nature. But when you come back to reality, it's not always that clear exactly how to move forward. And so we were confused about whether we should be figuring out our passion, or is it our purpose? Is it our full potential that has to be realized? Where do you go? How do you figure it out? How do you get your answers? And that's really why we started the Change School. The Change School was something that we felt was missing. It was something that provided a space for you to reflect and to reconnect with yourself. It provided community for you to find connection with other people who were at a different point, a similar point in their lives. And it offered opportunities to learn, to gain inspiration from others, whether it's through mentorship, workshops, etc. And so we had to kind of take a step back and go, okay, why do we feel that our personal struggles are big enough to build a business around? And so that's how we created what we call our change cycle. And so when we really stop to reflect, we realize the only thing that is constant in this world is change, right? And what this change cycle is showing is that change can happen all around you. It can happen internally. It can happen in ways that you might foresee, but it can also happen in ways that you can't. So to highlight an example, as I'd said, I was at a point of career burnout, trying to figure out my next steps. I was also engaged, getting ready to get married, and my husband's family's Indian, so there's a lot of tradition in there, so there's a lot of identity crisis all happening at once. And for Grace, her father passed away, so loss of a loved one. She was also married. She was also potentially starting a business with me. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of layers that happen, not only because we move through life and the different phases, but also because in every phase, you have constant choices. Do I go on a sabbatical? Do I take a break? Do I take the higher paying job, or do I freelance? Do I stretch my tentacles and see what I'm made of, or do I go for what's stable and safe? And in between is all the stuff you can't expect. Your father passes away, your relationship breaks, you have a health condition, there's a financial crisis. So what we saw was that there was a real dire, urgent need for people to start getting comfortable with change. And not only that, to start believing that change is actually a force for good. It's something that if we cannot be afraid of, if we can learn to lean into, if we can learn to use it to our advantage, will actually allow us to do more and be more. So the reason I'm sharing this is because we have to walk the talk. All of us as founders have to walk the talk, right? We have to not only preach, but also follow what we preach. And so if we're talking about defining values and aligning the choices you make, then how are we doing that inside our business? So very briefly, and mindful of time, I don't want to get into this too much, but this is our theory of change, and this kind of explains how we do what we do. So we're experiential learning designers. I'm also a coach, I'm also a facilitator, and I'm also a corporate trainer. And no matter what product or service we're providing, our theory of change is constant. We believe, to your point as well, it starts with self-awareness. You can't belabor that point enough, right? It starts with knowing who you are and what's important to you. What are your core values? Is it balance? Is it flexibility? Or is it wealth and abundance? And all of it is okay, but you need to have that understanding because that's your anchor. That's how you figure out what choices are best for you. So when we get to a point of starting to check in with ourselves and starting to become more aware of what's really important to us, then we can start making decisions that are aligned to our goals. And I encourage you as you think about this, not just to think about this for you personally, but also for your business. What's most important? How does that align to how you're prioritizing your time, your tasks, and your goals? From there, we're able to start embracing change because when you realize what needs to happen, what you're going for, what you're trying to achieve, that's when you can go, okay, well, I maybe need to change my habits. There's an opportunity to change how I'm approaching things. There's an opportunity to build a new strategy for my business. And knowing that nothing is ever guaranteed, but by staying grounded in what's most important and where you're headed, you become more resilient in times of uncertainty, and we are in very uncertain times. And through that process, we then learn how to better design our lives, better design our days, better design our businesses, and better design our careers. And finally, be able to take action and thrive. And at the Change School, that's what's most important to us, is about thriving. It's about growth, it's about learning, and it's about thriving at whatever stage of your business you're at. So, I've shared a bit about the why, I've shared a bit about the how, and now this is over the 5 years. Sorry, these slides look a little crazy, but over the 5 years what we've built. So we started with immersive retreats, and those retreats were designed to have inspirational workshops to put people outside of their comfort zones. We had everything from Muay Thai to daily meditation, to design thinking workshops, to quiet time. And the aim was to really force people to start thinking, how do I want to spend my time? How do I want to feel day to day? How do I want to experience becoming an entrepreneur or being somebody who wants to thrive in their life and in their work? And from there, we moved into public workshops. So instead of taking people away from their home environment, we started running workshops at different co-working spaces around Singapore and Southeast Asia. That eventually evolved into corporate training, and from corporate training, we got into the online world. Now, before I get into too much more detail, I want to show how those things came to be. Because what you can see is from 2014 to 2017, so the first 3 years of our business, everything was offline. We were running retreats, we were doing corporate programs, we were doing workshops. Our goal and our journey was one of growth. Not scale, but growth. So it was about growing revenue, it was about growing the number of students that came to our school, and it was about growing the number of partners that we were working with. We were always really specific about our growth metrics. And so the first 3 years, as I said, was centered around growth. And for us, a big milestone was around 2018, we saw that we actually had more than 1,000 students come through our school. That includes corporate professionals as well as individuals. And we call those students our alumni, humans of change. Now, at that point, we thought it might be fun to just go out into the market and test and see how would investors respond to us if we were to tell them a little something, something. It wasn't our intention to go and fundraise, but we simply said, let's go and test how our performance is perceived by investors. So within 2 months, we were full-blown fundraising. We went out with a small little deck, we were telling our story, and very quickly we started getting interest. Investors started asking us some really pointed questions about our numbers that we were not prepared for. They asked us questions about our future vision, about where we were headed, which we were not prepared for. But it was a really, really steep learning curve, and we very quickly started to tell a story that we understood the investors needed to hear. It wasn't a lie, but it was definitely veering away from our core. And even though intuition told us that was happening, we went with it. And we quickly realized that the discussion and strategies they were helping us with wasn't just about growth. They were talking about scale. And that's a very different thing. And that may or may not be really great for your business. But I think till today, thanks to the unicorns of the world and the Silicon Valleys, most of us have been conditioned to think that the goal of any business is to scale. And I'd like to challenge that. I hope that you guys leave today really thinking about what your bigger goal for your business is. Is scaling something that makes sense for your bigger vision? What happens if you don't go hard and go big? What happens if your business only ends up serving a very niche market and does it really, really well? What are your personal financial goals? How much revenue is enough for you and for the people involved? I think these are questions that too many founders are not even thinking about before starting. And we're getting conditioned by even impact investors don't quite fully understand impact. So we're still falling into a very traditional way of thinking about what's growth, what's skill, what's important, what is success. So in 2018, we learned a lot in 8 months. We made several mistakes. We fell into the trap of fundraising unintentionally. We started painting a very different picture for the future of our business than what was true to us. We spent 8 months in negotiations for our Series A and did not operate the business in that time, which almost killed us, especially when At the 11th hour, when we were about to sign the dotted line, the universe, I guess, spoke to us and said, "Stop! You're doing the wrong thing!" And so we stopped and we walked away. So we didn't take that money. We didn't decide to scale. And we were nearly skint of cash flow. A really, really scary time. Do I have any regrets? No way. Do I think we made the right choice? Absolutely. If I had wanted to scale the business in the way that the investors we were speaking to had intended, I actually think I'd be better off working for a company and getting paid a shit ton of money for it. So, what happened in 2018? We didn't die, though it felt like we would. We decided to try and shift the entire business from the offline world into the online world so that we could come back to growth. We were nearing burnout, again, thanks to the investment discussions and running corporate training programs and the gym for your mind and the retreats. Oh, and Grace got pregnant, and then her husband lost her job. So, when it rains, it pours, right? So what did we do? We decided we needed to be in the online world. What we had a lot of was content at that point. Loads and loads of content that was just kind of sitting in our database. So we decided to turn it into a product, a change planner that we've been selling on Amazon. Didn't do amazing, but it was all right, and we got it out, and it allowed us to see whether or not designing, developing, and selling products online was something that the Change School could do. I wouldn't quit my job to be a product designer now. We started Change School TV. So weekly Facebook Lives where we were giving people free tutorials, free tips, free worksheets designed to help them reflect on how aligned their current lifestyle or career or work style was to what was important to them and where they could make shifts and changes. And we launched a 5-week online course, which we delivered live. It's now a self-paced course, and the reason for that is that we realized there's amazing content out there. We aren't necessarily the world's best career online course. So the content is out there, but what people really need is guidance, accountability, personalized support. And so now the majority of my work is all around coaching and providing that guidance and accountability. Whether people come in from Change School TV and watching a free tutorial, using a worksheet and being like, this was awesome, it really helped me, can you help me more? Or if they come through our online course and they decide that they want to pad that experience with additional guidance and accountability, or they might have bought our change planner and said, hey, this was cool, now how do I implement? So the change planner is designed to help people change habits, and so how do I actually start to sustain this in my life and in my work? So 2019 now, sadly, my co-founder is now with Facebook. They poached her, which sucks for us because we can't do Facebook ads anymore, but that's okay. We learned a lot of things that I am still trying to remind myself of all the time, and it's something that I also integrate into the work that I do with my clients now. So the clients I work with are either professionals who are trying to grow in their careers or make a massive career shift. They're early stage entrepreneurs who are thinking about building and launching a business. Or they're just really stuck in life and they can't seem to figure out how to get out. So the 3 lessons that we learned that I try to integrate into everything. As I said earlier, growing a business is not the same as scaling a business. Right? So knowing your growth metrics, knowing why you want to scale, what does that mean to you, is so, so important. So for those of you who've seen Simon Sinek's talk around starting with why, or you may have noticed the golden circle format that I shared in, it really does come back to that. I think sorry, I'm forgetting names, but you spoke about it even with Facebook ads, and I think it's true of everything. You need to know why you're doing something. And don't let it be because you think you should, or because every other business said, or because he said, or because society dictated. Be really, really clear about why you're taking a certain decision for yourself or for your business. Now, these are personal lessons, okay? I don't believe in absolute truths, so if any of you disagree or want to challenge, by all means. But from my experience, it is also true that a founder without a vision is a hustler without a purpose. I have worked with so many entrepreneurs, and I see it all the time. When you're chasing growth, scale, money, not vision, values, and purpose, you will lose steam. Whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So you need purpose and you need vision. And it doesn't need to be some grandiose Mother Teresa kind of purpose. It just needs to be clear. And it needs to be aligned and authentic to you. And thirdly, which is really the big umbrella point that I'm kind of trying to share today, is that more isn't always better. Bigger isn't always better. Today, I feel very fortunate to be in control of my time again. I have time, I have freedom, I have flexibility. I get immense sense of purpose and reward from the clients that I work with. I get a lot of creative flexibility inside my own business. And those are the things that are most important to me. That I get autonomy, that I get freedom and flexibility, and that I feel meaning in the work that I'm doing. So what's 3.0 going to look like? It's going to look like quality over quantity. So we tried and tested loads of things. We tried getting 100 people. We saw Seth Godin's Alt MBA. We were like, how do we get 100 people into our online course at one go? And then divide all the coaching groups into 20 batches and then automate the whole process. Again, I'm not saying digital and automizing is not a smart way to optimize your business and to make your processes more efficient, but you also need to understand, if you're service-based businesses, where's the human touch? Where are people going to feel what you stand for? How are they going to feel that you really care? How are you going to build trust and loyalty from your consumers? And how are you going to build a brand that actually means something? For us, it's quality over quantity. So now I no longer do group coaching. I don't want to. I do one-to-one, and it's probably against what every coaching coach out there would tell you to do. And that's okay, because this is aligned with me. And it still ticks all my boxes. It's also going to be personalized offerings. So once again, I'm pretty sure I do everything against what the coaching manual will tell you. I probably put way extra hours into the follow-up, into the strategy, into the thinking about solutions for my clients than I should, but I do it because that's what's important to me. I never regret it. I don't charge more for it. I simply do it because it's about quality. And it's about personalizing the experience. No two clients I've ever worked with have had the same challenge. Well, let me rephrase. Challenges are quite similar, but it's never the same situation. So there cannot be a plug and play. In my view, there's no plug and play when it comes to dealing with human beings in this line of work. And last but not least, work-life integration. So my mantra for 2019 moving forward is no more burnout. I'm not burning out at the end of every year. I am not going to compromise my health, my well-being, the fact that I have to go to yoga for an hour a day, the fact that I have to start my morning slow. I used to feel so much guilt for these things, and frankly, living in Singapore, that's normal. You should feel guilty if you're not working every second. I'm very grateful to be in a very different environment and culture that I believe, or I'd like to believe, celebrates your ability to integrate work and life. It's not necessarily balance. I don't know if I even believe in balance, but I believe in integration. And I believe in creating and designing your business and your life the way you want to experience your life and your work. I think that's it. So if you want to know more about the online course, you can check it out at bit.ly/boldcareer. If you want to know more about the coaching programs, you can go to my personal website. Full disclaimer, I am having issues with the Change School website. I can't change things on the back end. So all the coaching program information is on my own website for now. What else can I say? Oh, that's all. Questions?
All right, so that was wonderful. It really spoke to me and how we operate our business as well. Just out of what you said, I'm like, yes, exactly. But my question is around something I wasn't expecting to learn from you just now is about scale versus growth. That really spoke to me, given about how we're growing our business, and I think I've had some ideas in my mind about scale, but I'm pretty clear now that I don't think we want to do that. But what I'm really curious about, though, is it hit me, though, after I had that thought. What was the difference for you? So you were staring at the Series A, the dotted line, as you said, all the the dance of the money in front of your fingers. But so what was it? Was the scale? What was the difference between growth and scale, and what was it about that Series A and the scale that the investors were expecting that turned you off? I don't know. I'm just kind of curious what that difference looked like for you.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think I don't know if we've ever really defined ourselves as a social enterprise. Also, because I don't see much difference between an enterprise and a social enterprise. Actually, I believe that moving forward, businesses just need to have more social responsibility. Full stop. So I think part of the problem was our investors were looking at a way to just, not just, let me be mindful of what I say. Of course, any investor wants their return as fast as possible. So that's one goal. In order for that to happen, they're likely, depending on your discussions, they're likely going to try and structure and remodel your business in such a way that's going to create that result, right? And as you saw, we had created multiple revenue channels, right? We had products, we had retreats, we had all these things. And we were looking at growth metrics, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of impact, in terms of habit change, behavior change, mindset change. It was really elaborate. Our investors weren't interested in that. They only wanted the numbers. And what they came back with was essentially to turn us into a hyper business school is the fastest way I can describe it, right? Where we're churning out classes, we've got students coming in and out, we've got proliferated teachers out there with a manual that tells them how to teach how to live. It wasn't sitting with us. And what the experience would have been for us, me and my co-founder and I, and the team that we had was just, as I said, I was like, when I really visualized it, I was like, I could just go work for a company then. I could go work for a company, get paid bank, not have nearly any of this stress, and go home at night and not have to think about it until I'm back in my office tomorrow. So the trade-off for us didn't make sense. Does that answer?
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to say it's a bad thing. It just wasn't for us.
Yeah, it sounds like it would have. It sounds like it really would have diluted the quality, like you said, right? And we're in a similar line of work. We're a consulting firm, and we help businesses transform the way they sell. And a lot of that starts with mindset and getting down to the core of even stuff that happened in childhood sometimes, and how that drives how you think and act today. That has an impact on the effort you take in your work.
Exactly.
And you can't. We don't do a training with over 16 people in it. And we never use PowerPoint, and we only use a flip chart. It's
And things like this were mind-boggling for our investors.
Right.
They were like, "What are you talking about?"
Right,
And to be fair, that speaks also to how you profile and target investors and find alignment. So that was also a learning for us. But that was.
What'd you learn about that?
Yeah, that's another conversation.